And here they are in all their glory. Of course, guys, I will talk about both watches at the same time because they are exactly the same, besides, of course, the dial and the seconds hand. But before that, of course, let's check the dimensions. They have a case size of 37 millimeters, a lug-to-lug distance of 42 millimeters, which is extremely good for smaller wrists, a thickness of 10.5 millimeters. It has a lug width of 18 millimeters. The bracelet is actually bigger than the lug width at almost 20 millimeters, and it tapers down to 18 millimeters where it meets the clasp. And let's begin with the dial. So this is the SNK L45, and it might not show in this footage, but this is not a black dial. This is a very dark gray charcoal dial. In some situation like this one, it looks like a very deep chocolate brown, which is absolutely beautiful. Very nice subtle sunburst effect to it, which is the same effect that you can find on this SNK L41. So this is a very light silver dial. Both have that very subtle but nice looking sunburst effect in real life. And of course the SNK L45 pops because of that red seconds hand, but you can see that the legibility is pretty good even if you don't have that much light hitting the dial, thanks to those, it's not faceted hour indices, they're like more rounded, but because of that they can catch a little bit of light in any situation and you can still tell the time. But of course, it will never be as legible as on a light dial. Of course here, well, you don't have the red second hands. This one is way more subdued, but I would go with this one if you want to have that kind of summer vibe, and obviously light dials, if you prefer them, then this is the way to go. So you have applied hour indices, an applied logo, and Dauphine hands. Truth be told, I wish those hour indices were a little bit shorter, but just a tiny bit. I think the design really works here. And of course you have those very nice looking Dauphine hands that you guys know these are my favorite hands, and they really contrast against that dial, specifically with the silver, the light silver one that I have here. Obviously on this one you will get white dials for the day and date window with black inscriptions, whereas on this one it's the other way around. You get black discs with white inscriptions for the day and the date. Of course here on the SNK L41 you have a tiny bit of difference when it comes to the color between the discs and the dial. On the SNK L41, of course it's not the same. You can see that it's black and that dark charcoal gray. Besides that, you just have a few lume pips at the inner ends of those hour indices, and then of course some lume on the hour and minute hands, and that's about it for the dial. Onto the case, and this is the 01V0 case from the Seiko 5 line, and you guys may know that this is my favorite one because I think it looks awesome, it is very well finished, and it hugs the wrist like no other, at least for my wrist. From this angle, you can see that very nice bezel. It almost has the same shape that you can find on Grand Seikos, which is pretty nice for the money. Of course, you have a polished bezel, a quite large polished bevel right there, and the top of the lugs are brushed, which is my favorite combination. And because of the size of the case and the shape of the case, well, it hugs smaller wrists very nicely. You will see that on my wrist shot. In typical Seiko 5 fashion, you have the crown at 4 o'clock. Really, this one is nothing to write about. It's a plain and simple crown that is pretty small, meaning that it does fit within the design of the watch, which I think is pretty cool. And when you pop it out, obviously this is not a screw down crown. Not super easy to operate because it is kind of small, but you know, there again, this is not why you get this watch. It's all about the dial and the case, which in my opinion, as I just said at the beginning of the video, is the very best one in the Seiko 5 line. Onto the case back and the movement. So obviously you have a see-through case back, which is always cool if you want to see the inner workings of your watch. This is specifically true if that's your very first automatic watch ever, because this watch is powered by a 7S26 movement, which is not super pretty to look at. Truth be told, this is not the best looking of them all, but it's always a nice touch to be able to see this movement. When it comes to the accuracy, the SNK L45, the black one, runs between +4 and +10 seconds a day with an average rate of +8.5 seconds a day. And the SNKL41 was less lucky because it runs between minus 15 and plus 40 seconds a day with an average of around plus 15 seconds a day, depending obviously of the wearing pattern. You will not have the same kind of results if you move a lot or if you move not so much because let's say you work at a desk. And when you don't wear the watch, of course, it could very well be that it slows down when you put it this way. So that is to say with the 3-hour markers up, and that it goes faster when you put it with the dial parallel to the table. And this leads me actually to the bracelet, because the bracelet allows you to do this. So it is stiff enough to put it in this way or this other way, and you can put it in this way, which actually is handy if you want to have it as a clock on your desk. Now, when it comes to the bracelet, obviously you will have folded metal end links, and as pretty much with every Seiko 5 folded links, and truth be told, they are finished quite nicely. Not the best one. You can see these ones are the one that you can actually adjust to your wrist. They have some more gaps than the other ones, but they kind of look good. I mean, the bracelet really does feel better than the one on my SNK 393 that I just reviewed a few weeks ago. And you can see it clearly here. So you have both bracelets at the same time. On the left you have the SNK 393 and on the right you have the SNKL 41 or 45. As you can see, this one, in my opinion, is more tasteful because it is that more subdued, and I think it suits the vibe of the watch more than this one that is pretty intricate and kind of detracts from the design of the watch. And not only is it comfortable to wear because it doesn't pinch the skin or grab hair, but I think it looks better than most of your Seiko 5 bracelets. You have those brushed links with just a tiny element of polished right there, and that's about it. I think this is tasteful for a Seiko 5. Pretty much the best bracelet out there, and you shouldn't have to change it if you like metal bracelets. When it comes to the clasp, you have your typical Seiko 5 engraved clasp with 3 micro adjustments and 2 push buttons to actually release it. This one closes with a secure snap and it doesn't go anywhere. So obviously you're not getting this kind of watch for the Loom. This is an everyday watch. I could ever tell you that it can work in dressier occasions, so obviously the Loom will be small. But this one is very tiny. You have those tiny little drops of Loom, and even if they glow kind of bright, I would say on the same level that my SKX 013, they do tend to wear off pretty quickly because of their sheer size. So this will not last you through the night, but again, this is probably not the reason why you're getting this watch. But there you have it, guys. If that's important for you, the Loom, not the best out there, pretty small. I think, by the way, this is a great thing. This is an everyday watch and it can serve as a dressier piece, and you don't want that Loom to be in your face. So I think it's a good thing. So this watch is so good that I wish it had another movement inside. So obviously the 7S26 is not the most accurate movement out there. When it comes to the 7S26, sometimes you're lucky and out of the box it runs between 5 to 10 seconds of deviation per day, which is pretty cool for that movement. Sometimes you're not lucky, but you can still regulate it. Of course, this, I think, is probably the biggest drawback to this watch, but does it mean that you shouldn't get it? I don't think so. And there's a reason why this SNKL 41, 43, which is the blue dial, and 45 watches are called the poor man's SARB. That is because it is a very valid alternative to this watch. Of course, you don't get the same kind of finishing. I mean, on the SARB you have that detail here on the lugs, which is totally different from the SNKL 41 here. And obviously you can see there are many more details going on, namely the hour indices, the minute tracks and all that. But is it a valid option if you cannot spend that much money? I would say yes. So depending on your part of the world, you can get this one for 4 to 5 times cheaper than the SARB. The SARB obviously is discontinued. I think you guys know that. So the question is, would I sell the SARB 035 and only keep this one? Probably not. This is a better watch. It has a better movement. So this is the 6R15 movement, and I think it looks better. But now the real question is, if you don't have any of those, could you be happy with this one? And would I be happy by buying only the SNKL 41? And the answer is yes. I told you, I just wish that the hour indices were a little bit shorter and that it had a better movement, but this is not a deal breaker for me. I think it's a cracking watch for the money, and I already told you that. probably the best Seiko 5 in the whole line. And here it is on my wrist. As you can see, it hugs it, no problem. This is a perfect size for a smaller wrist. It will look proportionate and it will be very comfortable as well. So very nice work here with this Seiko 5 case, probably the opposite of the SNXS 79K, which is very weird on the wrist. And as usual, here is a little wrist roll for you guys. Of course, as usual, you will find links to these watches in the description below, and that will help the channel a lot if you can shop around using these. Now, here is on my 6-inch wrist as seen from a distance. Of course, you can see that this one is very proportionate. It works no problem. And because it is smaller and lighter, well, it is super comfortable as well. So this is the SNKL 41, the light one, and here is the dark one. So this one works as well. Maybe you want something a little bit more subdued. I would go with the black dial. Very nice looking in the metal in real life. That shine that you have, that sunburst effect is really cool. This one, of course, pops a little bit more because of the color. So believe it or not, these are not my watches. These are my girlfriend's watches. But nonetheless, I want to give them a score and see if they would be a fit within my collection. So here we go. First and foremost, are they straightforward? And for me, it's a 5 out of 5. Super simple design, super subdued, timeless. There's nothing to say about it. Super straightforward, so maximum score right here. Does it stand out? And well, pretty much this one I should give it a 3 out of 5. You know, it's a pretty simple design, nothing really special. It flies under the radar, but I think it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't pop out all that much. Besides maybe that red color on the second hand on the black model, so the SNKL 45, and maybe that color that you get on Saturday, which is that light blue, or on Sunday, which is that red color, but that's about it. So it doesn't pop all that much. Not a problem per se, I like it, but 3 out of 5. Is it refined? Well, there again, like many other Seiko 5 watches out there, the kind of finishing and detail that you get for this watch is pretty insane. So I would give this one a 5 out of 5. Is it comfortable? Yes, it is. I think this is the best case when it comes to Seiko 5 watches. You guys know that the 01V0 is my favorite of the bunch. It hugs the wrist like no other. It looks good. It is not, you know, it's a 37mm watch, so it's pretty lightweight, super comfortable to wear. So again, this one, 5 out of 5. And what about the what the hell factor? So obviously this one will compete against my SARB 035, whereas this one, not so much. Actually, at the very beginning, I would have gone with this light silver dial. Now I just do prefer the black dial because you have that red second hand that pops out more, and I kind of like that sunburst effect as well. So because here it's competing with my SARB 035, and because this one is like your typical everyday watch, I would give this one a 3 out of 5. You guys know that I like sports watches a little bit more, so this is why it doesn't get a high what the hell factor, but nonetheless, this is a good looking watch for sure. And so overall, these watches get a very nice 84% as a good fit for my collection. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna buy them because if I want to rock them, I just have to borrow them from my girlfriend. If I had no SARB and no watches around, I would go with the black dial because I think it looks better, but of course I know a lot of you guys also would prefer the light silver dial. It's really a matter of preference. But then again, the thing that is the most important thing with this watch, I think, is the fact that you cannot go wrong. It looks good, it is timeless, you have pretty much every feature you need. Okay, it's not hand winding, okay, it's not hacking as you may expect from another watch in that price point, but it looks so good that for me, this is okay. From afar, it just can look like a Grand Seiko. Maybe you do not agree with me, but I'm telling you, this is, for the kind of money you're spending, what you're getting is very nice. You just can't go wrong. Now, one last thing, they tend to disappear from the market. For some reason, the stock is kind of drying up. So I don't know what's going on with the production. Maybe they are stopping these. So please go and check them out before it's too late. As I told you, I have links in the description below if you want to check them out. If you like this video, well, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments what do you guys think of the SNKL 4X series. So the 41, the silver dial, 43, the blue dial, and the 45, the black dial. Please share with everybody in the comments section below. Of course, if you want to stay tuned about reviews, lists, watches for smarties and watches in general, because that's what we like around here, well, subscribe to the channel and check the little bell icon so you get notified as soon as I post a new video. And in the meantime, thank you so much for dropping by. Stay stylish and keep watching both.